Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, and it is the day after deadline day, so we are going to talk about everything that happened, the carnage that was Sunderland. I think they had 9 players leave, 3 players join, so it was a crazy day. If you enjoy the video, please like, please subscribe as well, and please let me know what you think of Sunderland's deadline day business and just their transfer business in general. I have a video with Alt Ending, the Sunderland YouTuber, where we're going to record a sort of review of the transfer window. That'll be coming out probably tomorrow. We're going to record that tonight, so watch out for that. But anyway, let's dive into some of the outgoings to start. So firstly, I think Paddy Roberts leaving it's a sad one. I understand it from his perspective, I understand it from the club's perspective, but I think it's just sad that a player that has been with us since League One, who's helped us get up the leagues, played a crucial role in both playoff campaigns that got us up, is leaving the club. And yeah, I had a tinge of sort of sadness, really. Yeah, that's the word. That he's not going to be here anymore, and that's because he's been such a big part. I thought Paddy Roberts would actually translate quite well at the Premier League. I was actually quite looking forward to seeing him getting some game time. I know he played against Burnley, and I thought he did all right in that game. So I was a little bit surprised that the club actually moved him on. I thought that he would have been sort of in and around the first team, but obviously as we get the incomings, they maybe think they've upgraded there. But yeah, hopefully, in a way, that is him finished at Sunderland, because he's got a year left, I think, on his contract after this season. If he was to come back to Sunderland, that would probably suggest that we're not in the Premier League anymore. So hopefully, and I say this even though I'm a big fan of Paddy Roberts, hopefully that is the end of Paddy Roberts at Sunderland, because it probably means that we're in the Premier League next season. And I think he leaves a real legacy at Sunderland. Obviously, that Sheffield Wednesday playoff goal was massive. That got us to the League One playoff final. And then he got the assist for Mayenda's equaliser against Sheffield United, an incredible pass in the Championship playoff final. He's just played a lot against us, so been a steady performer. I know people have lamented maybe his inconsistency and his lack of final product, but overall, Paddy Roberts has been a good player for Sunderland, and I wish him all the best at Birmingham. That's a project that's pretty exciting going on there, and they could be with a chance of getting promoted this season. So maybe Paddy Roberts will be donning the Birmingham colours at the Stadium Light next season in the Premier League. Other departures: Alan Browne has joined Middlesbrough on loan. That's a good move for him, and it's a good move for Middlesbrough, to be fair. He came here, he had a reasonable impact. He didn't play a lot of games due to injury, and I think that's the real shame for him. His injuries hurt his time at Sunderland and meant that he wasn't able to establish himself, and I don't think the club were ever going to go with him in the Premier League because he didn't play all that much in the Championship. Jensen Seelt has joined Wolfsburg on loan, and I think that's an incredible loan deal. Hopefully he gets playing time. I mean, they're in the Bundesliga, so that's a really, really good move for him. If he can play and thrive, we come back to next summer, hopefully as a Premier League club, and Jensen Seelt is playing Premier League football for Sunderland because he's had such a good loan spell in Germany, so that's a good move for him. And Niall Huggins, that's the other one really to talk about of note. He's joined Wycombe on loan. Obviously Mike Dodds is at Wycombe, so it makes sense in that sense. It's a familiar coach for him. I thought he could have maybe got a Championship move, but I think at Wycombe he'll play a lot of football. Hopefully he just kind of finds his mojo and is able to get some consistent football, because we saw in the Championship he's a fantastic fullback at that level before he had the injury. So hopefully he rediscovers that and helps Wycombe fire up the League One table. They've had a pretty rough start, so he's got some work to do to help them get back to the Championship where they were a few years ago. Let's talk now about the incoming. So obviously yesterday we talked about Brobbey and Geertruida, two good signings, add in a lot of good depth. Brobbey is a bit more of a wild card. I think because he had such a good season in 23-24, you get positivity from that, but obviously last season not as good at Ajax. Maybe a new surroundings and new settings will help him. I watched a Leeds fan reaction and they were pretty disappointed that they didn't go in for a player like him on deadline day. So that's good. I think it's interesting to know how long we've been tracking him and whether or not he's been a long-term target, or is this one that we've sort of been able to get done as we've got closer to deadline day. I'm not 100% sure. It was a name that hasn't really been linked with Sunderland throughout the summer. So interesting one there. Really excited to see him play. Geertruida, we snatched him under the noses of Marseille, which we've done a lot. We've done a lot of snatching players under the noses of teams this summer. Should be very solid cover at fullback, and we'll push Trey Hume. And that's what you need. Trey Hume goes down injured, and we've got a ready-made replacement there. Maybe Geertruida's going to come in and be the number one right back. He's been pretty ruthless at Sunderland this summer, so that could happen. But I think our defence looks really strong now in terms of the numbers that we have and I'm really impressed with what we've been able to do, because this was the one area of the team I was most concerned about heading into the summer, just because we had Ballard, who I thought was good enough, but other than Ballard at centre-back, we didn't have any players that I would trust to play in the Premier League at centre-back, whereas now we've got Alderete, we've had McGreely come in there, Geertruida could play in there this season. He's played right back, centre-back, so we've got options there. We've got Adjili, Seelt, 9 and whatnot. So our defensive line looks pretty strong now, so I think it's a massive tick in the box to Sunderland. They've addressed the striker issue, they've addressed the centre-back issue, and the other issue that needed addressed was the right wing position, especially when we saw Paddy Roberts leaving. We were like, well, they must be signing a right winger, because you don't let Roberts leave unless you're buying a new one. And Bertrand Traore, who for Football Manager players, he was a proper good Football Manager player probably about 8 years ago, 10 years ago, something like that. Started his career at Chelsea, moved to Lyon in 2017. Villa paid 70 million quid for him in 2020, and he played a lot for them in his first season there, and then was a bit of a fringe player. Left midway through the 23-24 season. He's the sort of player that is skillful, probably frustrating to watch, very good left foot, pace. It's the things that we know Sunderland want. They want players who are quick on transition, pacey, and can dribble past a man. That's what they want. That's what they've signed here. So it's a sort of player that I think fits into the mould of what Sunderland desire when signing a player. Questions over his consistency. That's the main thing I've seen. He's a player that, isn't going to necessarily deliver solid 8 out of 10s every week. I think you'll get an 8 out of 10, then a 5 out of 10, then a 6 out of 10, then an 8 out of 10. Don't think you're going to get a high level of performance consistently. Whereas a Paddy Roberts is more like a 6 or 7 out of 10 every week, but you don't often get 8, 9s out of 10. You know what you get with Paddy Roberts, whereas I think Traore is going to be a bit more up and down. I can certainly see him being a very strong option off the bench, certainly in games that are tight. I think like that Burnley game, would he have been a better option off the bench than Paddy Roberts? Maybe he would have been. So I think it's exciting, it's a threat, it's a player that I think will help us in that final third a lot. And I think a £2.5 million, a 1-year deal, it's a low risk for Sunderland. We've also got a club option for another year. So pretty happy with that. Experienced in the Premier League, experienced in Europe, experienced at top level clubs. It's exactly what you want, and 29 years old. Yeah, slots in there, will do a job. I don't think he'll be necessarily starting every week, but I think he'll certainly help Chemston Talby on the right side and push him forward. So good move in my opinion for Sunderland. So final reflections on the transfer window. Well, that's actually going to come in a video. As I said, I'm recording with alt ending. We're going to go through the transfer business, what we like about the transfer business, did we miss out on anyone, reflections on where the squad is right now, and also the sort of start of the season. But as a bit of a spoiler that I don't think this window really could have went any better for Sunderland other than maybe signing Leo Messi, which doesn't seem realistic. So yeah, we've improved across the park, and that's all you can really ask. We've added in a lot of players. I don't know what the final total was, like 13 or 14 players. So it's been really, really busy. We've upgraded everywhere. And I think for me as well, it's telling. I've watched the one Leeds fan channel. I used to work with Conor McGilligan, who runs that. I don't know, Sunderland fans seem to watch that channel. So anyway, was watching his channel, and he referenced like Sunderland's business, particularly on deadline day. Like Sunderland brought in 3, Leeds didn't bring in any. Sunderland have just been able to get X-factor signings, and Leeds haven't. And I think it's the comparison between the two, and I hate to continually compare Sunderland and Leeds all the time, but I think we are similar clubs in size, similar in terms of resource. In Sunderland's transfer window compared to Leeds, Sunderland have just had a better window. They've brought in better players than Leeds, and it's a really good measuring stick for us. And I think it's interesting watching the Leeds reaction to their transfer window, where they haven't been able to get things over the line, and the reaction to our transfer window, where we have been able to get things. And it'd be interesting to see if that translates over the course of the season and whether Sunderland will finish ahead of Leeds. Very, very interesting. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, please subscribe as well, and please let me know in the comments what you have made of Sunderland's transfer business so far. We'll catch you tomorrow for the video with alt ending. That's going to be a long interview, sort of podcasty format, which I'm really looking forward to diving into that with him, because he's got such a good analytical brain, doesn't he? So that'll be really exciting. So looking forward to you all watching that one.